how are you doing, everybody, and welcome back into the SFS channel. My name's Gavin, and today we are diving into an Underdog Fantasy best ball draft here for 2022 fantasy football. We are literally about to get started here. I was just saving and uploading a video I just posted, or will be posting prior to this video, shortly before this video goes live. So go check that out after you watch today's draft. But we are kicking things off already with the 1.5 overall pick in today's draft. This is a 12-team, 18-round half PPR draft for today's video. So again, this is on Underdog Fantasy Football, or on Underdog Fantasy. They've got literally all the sports that you could possibly imagine, from baseball to hockey to basketball on here. I actually just played a prop bet for the NBA Finals Game 2 last night, the day before I'm recording this draft today. And I put $20 on, they had a promo line, Steph Curry over half a three-pointer. And then my other leg of that bet was Jason Tatum under 3.5 three-pointers made. So I got absolutely squashed there, lost some cash, but we'll be doubling down, baby, filling this deposit, account balance up here in a few days. Obviously, we'll be doing drafts all summer long. So, wow, what a value here. Christian McCaffrey falls to me down at the 1.5 overall pick. I'm going to have to scoop him up there. That's just too good of value for me to pass on with that selection. But super fun stuff on Underdog Fantasy. If you guys want to check out and get my draft guides for the 2022 season, redraft, and dynasty, you can get those by signing up as a new user on Underdog and using promo code SFS. There's a link in the description of today's video as well, but make sure to use promo code SFS, and then they'll get a hold of me. Let me know that you signed up, and we'll get you squared away on sizzlefantasy.com with those free again, draft guides for the 2022 season. That also comes with, for the month of June, along with those draft guide packages, you'll also be getting my exclusive weekly lineup advice for the entire 2022 fantasy football season. So lots of great stuff to take advantage of with Underdog this season, and it is a fantastic platform. I have a ton of fun on it. So super astounded still that we've got CMC falling to me down here at the 1.5. You've got three receivers falling off the board. Now, I'm not going to blame them. I think that those picks arguably are actually safer than Christian McCaffrey. I mean, the guy's only played 10 games the last 2 years, but he's a walking 23 to 24 fantasy points per game in PPR scoring when he is available. So he's probably got, I've said this multiple times the last 2 weeks, but I think he might have a higher fantasy ceiling than a Jonathan Taylor has. But at the end of the day, Jonathan Taylor is younger. He's been more available, and you're talking about a player who's immediate injury history the last 2 years is not very favorable and gives a lot of people nightmares. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a pick that's going to make me sweat. I actually owned some shares of CMC in redraft last year, and I felt like I was going to have a heart attack every time he touched the ball, even though that's a good thing for my fantasy team, because I was so worried he was going to get injured, which eventually was the case, and he was lost for the year. But nonetheless, too good of a value to pass up on there at the 1.5 pick. I don't really know what else I could have really asked for at that selection. Those three receivers that went, again, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, and Justin Jefferson, are all phenomenal fantasy assets for this season. But again, I think we lucked out there, and we're pretty fortunate to get such a high caliber player with that level of upside at that stage in the draft today. So one more time, you guys, go check out Underdog Fantasy. That's the platform we're drafting on for today's video. They have the best ADP in the game. There's no more, there is no fantasy tool, resource, or draft system out there that provides the ADP, the accuracy, and the intuitive draft results that Underdog gives you. So promo code SFS for your free draft guides on sizzlefantasy.com. They'll double your money as a new user. One more thing, you guys, drop down, like today's video, subscribe to the SFS channel, join the community. We're looking to help out as many of you guys as possible this fantasy season. As always, you guys are more than welcome to comment any questions you have down in the comment section below. I will get back to you guys in a timely manner there as well. As soon as I see those pop up in my inbox, if I'm not doing anything, I always hop over and get you guys squared away with whatever information you're looking to get a hold of. So go check out that and use me as a resource this fantasy season. Turn the bell on so you're never late for an episode. We're up here in 4 picks, but one more cool thing I want to talk about that we're launching today, actually, that you're seeing this video, is SFS Weekly. It is my Substack account. You can find the link to that in today's description as well. And I'll be posting free exclusive content on there once per week, so I'm not going to overwhelm you and spam you with a ton of information and just random stuff, but we'll be putting out some sort of an article or, exclusive content, as I said, absolutely free on that Substack account. Our first product or our first thing that we're going to be putting out for this week, again, it is free, so it's not really a product, but it's going to be my 10 fantasy football secrets for the 2022 season to give you the chance to dominate your leagues this upcoming year. So go sign up for that Substack account. It's in the description of today's episode, and all you got to do is provide your email address to get squared away with that. Now, here comes the hard part. We've got to make a pick here on the fly because I've been yapping my jaw away here. I think I want to go Mike Evans. I do think he is a safer pick to me than Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown. I love T. Higgins, but I think the value is with Mike Evans right now. You could twist my arm, and in some circumstances, I might take Alvin Kamara in that spot. The reason his ADP is continuing to fall, actually, it's fallen by about 0.4 draft picks since I last made a video talking about Alvin Kamara in my top 10 running backs episode that I made late last week. So you can go check that video out on the channel as well. But essentially, you still got the off-the-field issues and kind of the uncertainty with what the Saints situation is going to look like offensively this year. I am personally someone who is actually fond of that situation. I think offensively, they'll take a step forward as soon as Jamison Winston is able to settle back into that offense. He was showing me very impressive things. Alvin Kamara led all running backs in target share this past season at over 20% of the Saints offense. Now, maybe you don't want that number so high because you want to have the defense keyed into other players or Chris Olave's, Jarvis Landry's, Michael Thomas's of the world. And I think that'll be the case. I think that those guys, those added talents to that offensive core should hopefully open up that situation a bit and help them coexist and thrive as a cohesive unit instead of being kind of a one-dimensional team. But I think Jameis has the ability to shoot the ball downfield to a Chris Olave, open things up there, and give Alvin Kamara some space and some cushion in both the box for the run game, but also limit the defensive attention they can play to him as a receiving threat as well. So, again, you could twist my arm to go that way there, but with Chris Godwin's injury, who knows? I think he'll be playing football early in the season, but there's also something to being 100% and actually being 100% of the player you were pre-injury, and that's something I've been talking through with guys like Cam Akers coming off of these Achilles injuries, is that I don't know how quickly you're going to be able to pick up where you left off. And I think with Mike Evans' touchdown upside, Tom Brady coming back to this football team, in the potential increases in volume, even though they might not be drastic with guys like Antonio Brown out of the situation, and again, Chris Godwin having a late fall ACL injury, I think are all positive signs for Mike Evans and his fantasy value, which has seen his ADP rise a bit this year. So now we've got a situation, a really interesting one. Do I want to go Josh Allen for a second video, or do I want to take a Javonte Williams who is seeing his ADP fall? I do think that that would make me feel safer than addressing a different position. I could also go James Conner, but I do think I like Javonte a little bit more here. Let's just check at the bye weeks. Actually, we don't want to go with James Conner because they have the same bye week. Javonte's not someone that gives me injury scares because I know that Melvin Gordon is going to be taking some of the workload off of his hands. For upside, that's not great, but for a player as physical as Javonte, led the NFL in broken tackles as a rookie, and a guy whose offensive situation is taking a tremendous step forward with Russell Wilson under center instead of Drew Lock, I think that it gives me a really nice value and balance between a risky player, high risk, high reward, and Christian McCaffrey with, yes, while Melvin Gordon is healthy and on the football field, Javonte doesn't have RB1 potential, but he is absolutely still a fantasy breakout candidate for this season just for the fact that he is so talented. The offense should be taking a massive step forward in the right direction, and you've got a guy who I think has a three-down workhorse running back skill set. Unfortunately, I was kind of diving into the numbers here recently, and Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon were basically dead even in terms of red zone touches, which isn't always phenomenal. What my hope for was that we would see Javonte pulling ahead in that category, but it was actually pretty much split right down the middle for goal line carries as well as red zone touches. So it'll be interesting to see how year two plays out here. Melvin Gordon is definitely not somebody who is in the prime of his NFL career. However, he is definitely somebody who is still a quality NFL running back and still can contribute to that Broncos football team, which will take a little bit of that piece of the pie away from Javonte, but I still feel good about that pick. James Conner, I would say, has a much better chance to be a pure workhorse in his offense, but he had the same bye week as Christian McCaffrey. And at the end of the day, I think that Javonte Williams, the player, is a little bit better here. So I wouldn't say... I think we did about as good of a job as we could have with those first 3 picks. Let me know, guys, in the comment section below. I'm always open to your guys' thoughts. Let me know what you thought about my first 3 picks. Where would you have potentially diverted from the path I took? Or did you like the picks I took? Let me know that as well. But I think that we handled that about as well as we possibly could have. In terms of the second round, let's pop up the big board for you guys. I don't know why I haven't been doing this more in episodes. But I think it would be nice just to kind of see who's going roughly around our picks. So you saw Josh Allen, like I talked about, the top quarterback going off the board. Javonte for me was nice, again, just because he gave me that safety blanket at the running back position. I'm not going to go super deep at that position group in today's video, is at least my hope, because you only have to start 2 running backs in this format, and the other 3 slots are wide receivers and a flex. So potentially I could be slotting in 4 wide receivers into my starting lineup in a weekly basis if I'm able to have guys who produce at that level. But Saquon went right before us. The other option, of course, Saquon went right after us. Debo went right before us. Tyreek Hill, to me, again, is a little bit more of a risk. He probably does have very good upside. A.J. Brown as well. T. Higgins was kind of the one guy that I was really considering having Joe Burrow as his quarterback, and just the talent he represents. I think he's got a lot of room to grow as a red zone target. In year 1, he was very good in that area of the field, and in year 2, his numbers for how good that Bengals offense was weren't quite as high as I would have expected in the touchdown department. So that'll be something interesting to keep my eyes on here. I might just keep hitting the draft button here and just slapping that sucker on Jerry Jeudy if he's available to me in 3 picks here. I absolutely love his upside with Russell Wilson. It would be diving or double dipping into the offense of the Denver Broncos, but I'm not super scared of that at this point. Patrick Mahomes, for me, is someone I want to fade right now for the simple reason that he lost Tyreek Hill, and yes, they brought in other options, but I think that, and this was literally reflected in this draft, Justin Herbert went before him. You saw Josh Allen go significantly higher than him, and I think that it's important that we fade him a little bit more than we have been. I think we're still clinging to the fact that he's possibly the best quarterback in the National Football League, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's the best quarterback for fantasy football. I think that's Josh Allen still. If you were to ask me, DJ Moore is actually a really good value here, but I would much rather have 2 pieces of... See, I haven't drafted a share of DJ Moore yet, so it's really interesting. As a football player, DJ Moore is fantastic. We know he's going to get a big chunk of the pie there in Carolina. But do I want to have 2 shares dedicated to that Panthers? What the heck? Let's do it. Okay, so the reason I pivoted there is I did not expect him to fall on the board, and then part of that was the reaching up for a Travis Etienne, who, do not blame them whatsoever. I absolutely love Travis Etienne. I was secretly hoping he'd make it to me here at the 5.5 because I have had success drafting him at the 5.4. Wasn't the case in today's video, which I, again, think that was a fantastic draft choice there. But DJ Moore, for me, is somebody who, again, I'm not going to draft a high volume of shares in him this season because of the fact that I don't love the situation with Sam Darnold throwing him the football. However, as a football player, DJ Moore is very good, and we know he's going to get a very high target share. So if he's able to capitalize on those looks, now last season the volume was there in the first quarter of the season, maybe even the first 6 games. I'd have to go back and check the game log, but he looked like a wide receiver 1 early on last season, and then Sam Darnold kind of, the wheels fell off the wagon, if you will. And once that was the case, things looked very, very different. Now, hopefully year 2 in the offense, he feels a bit more comfortable. We'll see how this situation progresses. But I know there are going to be a lot of footballs heading his direction. So something we talked about in the other video for today was Darnell Mooney, and if Justin Fields can clean up his passes and the accuracy of his targets a little bit and just give him some more respectable looks, that might be, a more advantageous situation for him to hit on his upside a little bit more. So again, DJ Moore is not going to be someone that I'm going to be drafting a ton this season. I've already got, I want to say, 3 or 4 shares of Jerry Jeudy in leagues this year. So I was either going to be doubling down on the Panthers offense or the Broncos. Again, I'd probably rather have 2 shares of the Denver offense, but I, again, did not expect DJ to fall to me at that value. So this is an interesting pick here. I wouldn't mind taking a Lamar Jackson. Gabe Davis at the 50th overall pick, or we're not the 50th overall pick. It would be 53rd overall pick for me. But his ADP is 51. That's a little bit rich for my taste here. I think that he's a good player, and I think that he's in a great situation. But I just haven't seen enough to quite convince me yet that he is that guy. Now, there are 2 players, Juju and Rashad Bateman. Darnell Mooney down here even further, that I absolutely love here. Let's just take a peek at what group is taking a look at here. I am interested in Lamar Jackson. I actually just talked a lot about him in today's episode as well that I just posted earlier today. I might go ahead, but I could also take Breece Hall and get a 3rd running back. That's interesting. I don't think I've taken a share of him yet. What the heck? Let's do it. So we've the 5-5 picks. So we've had an interesting situation where every draft we've done on Underdog for YouTube so far has been a different draft selection. So part of this is me playing around with ADP, seeing exactly how my teams look if I take different strategies, different approaches to the draft board, which is why even, if I start talking like I'm going to do something and then I see something I like better or something I want to try differently, for my sake, I just want to, see what this team looks like at the end of the day. I'm definitely experimenting today. I would say that this 5.5 overall pick is kind of uncharted territory for videos we've done in the past. So we're going to figure out how this draft board looks at the end of today's video. But I have not drafted a share of Breece Hall yet. So I like, just throwing a dart at the board there and seeing what happens. Just diversifying our, investments, our portfolios, if you will, throughout our drafts here on Underdog Fantasy. But also for, the sole purpose of draft strategy for the middle round here. I've had drafts at the 1-4 and at the 1-6 and absolutely loved how they turned out. I don't know if I'm quite as excited about today's video just because I see some risk with this team. I think that, the 2 Panthers we drafted are risky for just, again, the fact that CMC has had injuries the last 2 years, which is something that I can't discount despite the fact that I'm optimistic he'll stay healthy this year. And DJ Moore, how reliable is his quarterback play? Again, guy is a phenomenal football player. He's actually one of the most successful players in the NFL in terms of contested catch win rate. And then we've got Breece Hall, who I think has a chance to be a workhorse. We'll see how much Michael Carter factors in the 3rd down passing game work. But Breece is unquestionably the 1st and 2nd down back, the goal line player, the workhorse of this offense. It's just how high can he fly in that Jets offense will really be the question. So we might have locked down 3 really good running backs, so 3 different bye weeks, and we're 8 picks away from potentially locking up another really good receiver or another position that I like. I was dang close to going Lamar Jackson, but at that point in time, I felt that there would be more opportunity for me to address the quarterback position later with legitimate names and options that I like just as much as Lamar. Jalen Hurts is still on the board. I don't expect him to be there for me. But I think he has legit QB1 upside this year. Lamar, of course, does with his rushing ability. But his pass catching core took a bit of a hit this offseason, losing Hollywood Brown. We'll see what happens here. Again, we're just experimenting, toying with stuff here. If this stuff looks fun for you guys, I would freaking love if you guys would draft with me, have leagues, compete against me this season, see if you can outdraft me in leagues this year. Again, you can join Underdog Fantasy. There's a link in the description of today's video. And when you use promo code SFS, Underdog will double your first deposit. And then at the end of the week, they'll send me email confirmations of everyone that signed up, and we'll get you squared away. I'll reach out to you And make sure you get those draft guides on sizzlefantasy.com, absolutely free, as well as exclusive weekly lineup advice, access to my DMs on our community Discord server, and I'll help set your guys' lineup for you every single week this NFL season. So we are 4 picks away. I'm going to start scouring the board for guys I'm interested in. So Juju and Jalen Hurts, guys I've got my eye on here. They've piqued my interest. I do like Elijah Moore, Drake London, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So inevitably, I'm going to get someone that I feel really comfortable with here at this next draft pick. It's simply going to depend on, and I'm really enjoying seeing how everyone has stayed away from George Kittle like the Black Plague here. His ADP is 47.9, and it's about to be pick 68, and he's about to be there still. And I very well might just pass on him here yet again, because there are so many tight ends that I like in the later rounds of drafts this year. I honestly think I would draft Jalen Hurts over George Kittle. At a point, it's availability. At a point, it's touchdown production throughout his career. That is quite a reach, if I may there. Not a fan of that whatsoever. Taking D-Hop, who's suspended for 6 games, and has had more frequency of injury throughout his career. I'm gonna go ahead and take Jalen Hurts. The receivers though, I'm gonna do it though. I just love Jalen Hurts. I think his upside is phenomenal. Let's see how many more picks it takes to take Kittle off the board. There goes Joe Burrow. The Black Plague, I'm telling you, guys are not interested in drafting George Kittle right now. I should check Twitter. Maybe there's some terrible George Kittle news that I just haven't seen yet and is the reason nobody's drafting him. But this is very interesting to see him falling 20-plus picks below ADP. If you guys remember last season, if you played fantasy, Kenny Golladay, OBJ, these guys would literally fall so far below ADP draft after draft after draft. It was insane how much people would go out of their way to stay away from those players. If I could we're 5 picks away. There's probably, this is insanely wishful thinking. We're not going to get Drake or Elijah Moore here, but we can hope. We've got 5 picks. We need the rest of the board to reach for us at other spots. Wouldn't mind taking Dalton Schultz here if he were available as my tight end 1. 6'11" is where George Kittle ends up going. I think Dalton Schultz is right there in terms of being a middle-of-the-pack tight end 1, a top 6 or 7 name. When you talk about Amari Cooper leaving that situation, I think that opens the door for CeeDee Lamb to have a really big year as well. Lots of exciting stuff. I also won't rule out the fact, let's see, so Elijah Moore goes with that pick. I've also got some receivers down here that I love. Kenneth Walker's another big upside running back, rookie running back for that matter. Skye Moore, well, he could potentially be the top target for Mahomes in that offense this season. That would be very interesting. So Drake London and Elijah Moore both go off the board with that pick, making things very interesting for us here. We're 2 picks away. Dalton Schultz, again, on my radar. I could go for my 4th running back and just be super deep at that position if I want A.J. Dillon or Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Don't love that pick there I might just end up going, let's check out the bye weeks here really quick. Week 8 and Week 14. So I've got my pick of the 2. Just off the top of my head, I know how many shares I have. When's our next pick after this one? All right, we're a ways out. So I think I might actually address wide receiver here. And, this is tough. They've really put me in a tough position here. But I think that I'll have at least some guys that I like to fill out the rest of that group. I don't know if it'll be Skye Moore or Christian Kirk. I love me some Kenneth Gainwell, but we're talking Kenneth Walker. Wow. Overall, I'm not loving today's draft. Again, this is a position I have not drafted from before. This is I would consider this to this point not my best draft that we've done. Actually, the previous 2 drafts we've done, I've loved how the team played out here, but there's plenty of high upside wide receivers that I feel very comfortable with. It's interesting to see Allen Lazard's ADP. Where did he go? he's pumping a little bit, while Christian Watson is actually falling down the board a little bit, which is interesting to watch. I would love to get me some Jamison Williams down here. We're going to prioritize that wide receiver position, might fade tight end off the board a little bit here until later rounds, but we'll see who ends up falling. I was contemplating Brandon Ayuk with that last pick, but at the end of the day, I did not go there just for the fact that I have a share of him already. I'm very confident and comfortable with the player. However, I am not overly comfortable or confident with the quarterback situation. Now, I think Trey Lance is going to be fantastic for fantasy this season. I think he's going to, between his rushing ability and deep ball upside, he'll probably crush it. But in terms of that split between Debo and Ayuk, we saw Ayuk kind of flash down the stretch of the season, some of the things that he could do, but it is certainly no guarantee that he ends up hitting and smashing on his ADP, which I think is very possible. But I felt a little bit more comfortable with Green Bay and their situation. A.J. Dillon, I do love both A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. I think that they are arguably, you can make an argument that outside of Aaron Rodgers, these are the two best offensive pieces that Green Bay has at the skill position for this season, that being wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs. I think Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are both dang good pass catchers, and both of them are very capable on the goal line. They're both very good rushers as well. So you get kind of the total package with each player. I think that they're both going to touch the football a high volume of times, and when you talk about him as my RB4 on this team, I feel really, really comfortable with that top four group, and nobody shares a bye week. So love the quarterback position. Again, I think Jalen Hurts has QB, top 3 QB upside. I think he's easily in the top 5 this season. And I think that his rushing value will pull our team along the way. And then what we're going to be going for here is upside at the wide receiver spot. So Christian Kirk went to 7-11. That kind of sucks. I really like him this year. I think he'll have a lot of volume with Jacksonville and just be force-fed the ball. But we're going to have an opportunity to draft a ton of upside, a unhealthy amount of upside at the wide receiver position as we make our way down the board here. Totally interested in Allen Lazard. Chris Olave, someone who I haven't drafted as much as maybe I'd want to this season. Christian Watson, definitely someone I want to get my hands on. Jamison Williams, someone who I think is being very underrated in drafts right now. The fact that you can get him, a whole round and a half later at times, I feel like I'm interested that his ADP is still 115.5. I feel like he goes a lot higher than that on most occasions. So I might get myself a Skye Moore at this pick, which would be phenomenal, and I'm very glad I didn't draft Brandon Ayuk with that last pick now because he is just about on the board still. That's why I love Underdog, is that they have their ADP, obviously, and I think their ADP is obviously one of the most accurate and resourceful that there is, but you can see how the community is starting to change their evaluation, their thought process, their confidence levels, and kind of alternate their thought process. So we're going to scoop up Dawson Knox. Would be really nice if we had snatched up Josh Allen earlier in the draft, but instead, again, we went Javonte Williams with that pick. I'm like pretty sold on what I want to do here, and we're going to end up going ahead and doing so. Skye Moore, give me that upside, that rookie playmaking potential. I talked about him as a prospect, as being a guy who I think has a chance to be almost a quarterback's best friend. I think that he is someone who is smart enough to be able to sit down, find the hole in zone coverage. He can win vertically. He's a lot better of an athlete than I think we initially expected him to be. And I think that he can be a deadly slot weapon for Patrick Mahomes this year. I think Juju's going to get a nice amount of work in that offense. MVS will get some deep ball work as well. But I think Skye Moore can carve out a really advantageous role for himself in Kansas City there. We've got a nice amount of shares of Allen Lazard this season, and Juju Smith-Schuster for that matter as well. So I think it's time we roll the dice a little bit, examine and explore Skye Moore's potential for us this season. I'm really interested to see how this team looks at the end of the day here. Because, again, being totally honest, as we're going through this draft, just the players, I haven't, you know how everyone in fantasy football has their guy for this fantasy season. I'd say the only player who is like my guy for this year, or can be considered kind of in that realm for me, is Jalen Hurts. Other than that, I've kind of dabbled with guys that I haven't drafted too many shares of this offseason, guys that I don't mind having on my team here and there, but it's kind of a collection of those type of players for me, just because the guys I like, it's either a terrible value or they're already off the board. So down the stretch here, though, I will not be afraid to reach up and take hold of the guy I'm looking for. I might just draft 3. If the board lets me, I will draft 3 rookie wide receivers in a row to get my players, because at this point, I don't know how worthwhile it would be to sit back and try and wait for the value to fall, since, we've kind of already done that to an extent today, and filled out that running back position to a level I feel very comfortable with. I think we got 3 very sturdy players to go alongside the more risky pick with Christian McCaffrey today. One pick to go here. A little bit of a quarterback run's going off the board right now. And by all means, I am taking Christian Watson before I take Tyler Lockett here. No ifs, ands, buts, whats, anything about that here. We are drafting Christian Watson, and we are taking him here in the middle of the 9th round. Yes, it is a little bit above his ADP, but I like his upside, man. Give me Aaron Rodgers over Drew Lock any day of the week. And Christian Watson's competing with Allen Lazard, whereas Tyler Lockett has to compete with DK Metcalf. I couldn't tell you who Drew Lock likes more day one right now, here today, in the first week of June here. But what I can tell you is that I trust the target accuracy of Aaron Rodgers a lot more. I trust the athletic intangibles of Christian Watson, and I love that upside, man. I'm going to take the player in a best ball format who gives me the best chance to crush it on a weekly basis. And to me, that is Christian Watson with that draft choice. I would absolutely freaking love to get Jamison Williams here. Who knows? Maybe we fade the second quarterback position until late in the draft, scoop up Jared Goff to tie with him. There are other options at the running back position that are interesting here. Chase Edmonds, James Cook being 2 of those guys. I'm just going to sit back and wait. I mean, we don't really know who's going to be there. We're still 8 picks away, but I will not hesitate to take Jamison Williams, who is definitely one of my guys for this fantasy season. So we're starting to fill things out a bit more in the style and in the favor of what I like. Now, this would be 3 rookie wide receivers on the team, but what I will tell you is that rookies are usually some of the most undervalued players in drafts in the offseason. It's just how it is, because we have not seen them yet. Your casual fantasy football player, which is typically not what you're getting in an underdog draft, because there is skin in the game, let's face it. It costs $3 to get into today's video, into today's draft for this episode. And that's, at the end of the day, why this is more accurate, because there's stuff on the line. And whereas if you go do a mock draft on ESPN, you might see Todd Gurley. I don't even know if he's still in their database, because I haven't played on ESPN in so long. I'm basically doing all my leagues either in best ball or some other format that I like better than ESPN. Sleeper, for example, being one of those that I host a lot of my dynasty leagues on. But at the end of the day, you're getting that extra and that more valuable ADP by playing on Underdog. So, oh man, 3 picks to go. This is the scary thing. I can see Jamison Williams on the board, so I know these 3 guys can as well. I am absolutely shocked that someone would take Marquez Valdes-Scantling over Jamison Williams. I'm sorry, I'm a Packer fan. I've watched him for 3 years. All he does is run fade and post routes. And if you check out Matt Harmon's reception perception as well, you'll see his route tree. It's like the most fitting for a player that you've ever seen in the NFL, because it's all vertical pressing routes. And yeah, Mahomes will feed him the ball down there, but MVS also will get dinged up on occasion. And mother effer, there he goes. All right, don't demonetize me, YouTube. That blows. So we really should have addressed a Plan B insurance policy here. Gallup is someone interesting that you could draft in that Cowboys situation. Man, that really freaking sucks, because you don't know how excited I was to reach up there. Tight end's not a great value right now. I am not touching Gronk. I might just draft Pat Freiermuth here. Until Gronk is on a football team, I just don't know if I can draft him. Robert Woods is someone who I think doesn't really give me that best ball upside I'm looking for. I think I'm going to draft Michael Gallup. I'm gonna bet on the fact that he will recover strongly. Yes, him and Jalen Tolbert do a lot of the same things similarly. But at the end of the day, the quarterbacks are all risky, and for me, I can just draft someone later as my QB2. Deshaun Watson is still, possibly facing disciplinary action. Kirk Cousins is a really nice, safe floor quarterback, but how great is his upside? I want to be rolling with Jalen Hurts for the majority of the weeks because, as you've heard, I'm very bullish on his upside. So for me, it doesn't make sense to dive back into that position group. Rondale Moore is interesting because I think he's explosive as hell. I think he's a guy who can make a lot of plays for the Cardinals, but I don't see just the type of player he is to me. And I absolutely hate to say this because he's a very impressive athlete. And I think he's probably in the best offensive situation for him to succeed. But his size to me being, 5'7", it's just a gadget role. I mean, you talk about a guy who can run deep routes, but is he really going to separate and win vertically against top-tier coverage? Now, he's definitely not the number one receiver there, which is something they're not going to ask him to do now that they have Hollywood and DeAndre Hopkins. And yes, I think he can crush a number 3 corner. But how much volume can we really expect him to get on a week-to-week basis? Again, Robert Woods is playing in a run-first offense with a team that just drafted Treylon Burks in the first round. I think Robert will be really nice for the Titans as an actual football team, working in the middle of the field in the wide receiver run game as well. Screen routes as a blocker. He'll be fantastic. He'll fit in that situation beautifully. But how well will his fantasy ceiling be? In terms of best ball, I'm not loving that. And then Kenny Golladay, I just don't trust Daniel Jones. I think he's a phenomenal player in terms of his ability to win jump balls and box players out. But my patience kind of prevailed here. I think that, waiting paid off. I'll be able to draft, it looks like, Pat Freiermuth with this next pick. So just kind of, re-emphasizing the thought that why would I wait or why would I reach up and take him with that last pick when I could get a guy like Michael Gallup with that type of upside there. So heading into the 12th round now, take a look at the overall team, pop the big board back up for you guys to take a peek at. Is there actually any way that I probably can't draft out of this screen, so that's something nice to know. We'll have to pop back into that window once we're getting closer to being up on the board. But just kind of seeing how things played out here after I made that last pick of Michael Gallup. Again, we were really hoping for Jamison Williams to fall there, but then Tyler Boyd goes, who was probably my next preferred choice. At the 10-9, obviously having Joe Burrow is a big advantage. Tim Patrick is someone who's very underrated. He was actually a very healthy flex option last season. Again, you've got your quarterbacks that are going, which I don't really want to address that position quite yet. I'd rather have some upside at wide receiver. And we obviously had to fill out that tight end spot as well, which Pat Freiermuth is someone who, in the red zone, especially working with the 2 quarterbacks he is this season, I think has a really nice opportunity to find success. And then some of these other players I don't absolutely love. Mike Gesicki's good in the red zone, but obviously has now more target competition. Rondale Moore, again, I'm not trying to pigeonhole him into like a gadget role, but for me it's about the volume. I think the situational upside is nice. And in best ball, I would prefer him actually a lot more than I would in a traditional redraft league. But for me, that wasn't exactly the pick I was feeling at that point in time. And yes, he will have an opportunity to potentially work as the number 3 wide receiver. But if you ask me, I think he's the F wide receiver, the number 4, once D-Hop comes back, and he'll be used, again, in a situational slot role where, yes, he will make explosive plays. But how often will we see that happen? Van Jefferson, Jamison Crowder, 2 players that I think give me really nice upside if I slap those guys on the team here. I'm going to anticipate that Dameon Pierce, a running back who I like, but again, I'm not really concerned about addressing that position right now just because of the work we've already done there, which I'm very comfortable and confident in. Irv Smith, if I begin to start fading tight end even heavier, the thing that sucks is that if you fade and then Irv goes off the board, which has happened to me a couple of times, then you get kind of trapped a little bit. But I would absolutely be comfortable with him as my tight end 1 this year. I think he's got a lot of upside in Minnesota. I would love, though, the upside of Jamison Crowder in the slot role that Cole Beasley vacated, which was a fantastic situation and a fantastic usage role in terms of Beasley just eating volume some weeks. Jamison Crowder's going to have hamstring issues probably and miss a couple games here and there, but if he's out there, I'm totally sold on what he can do in this offense for the 2022 season. And then Van Jefferson is just going to hit a home run ball every once in a while for Matt Stafford and completely put up a monster fantasy week. So that's a really nice option to have in a best ball format as well. I would not mind going there at all. The one thing that's kind of unfortunate there, he goes off the board. I'll be really depressed if Jamison gets picked here. The one thing that kind of stinks about drafting a Jalen Hurts is that I'm not a big A.J. Brown guy, especially early in the third round, so I'm usually not going to draft him there. And I'm also not a huge Devontae Smith guy because I realize what is represented by A.J. Brown's presence. Like, you're just hoping, you basically know. Devontae Smith's a dang good player, but he's going to be the number 2 wide receiver. A.J. Brown just fits the mold better. He's a more traditional X receiver. And to be honest, I think they can just do more things with him easier, getting him the football at the line of scrimmage. Like, Devontae Smith is not shifty enough to make a ton of guys miss out in space, and he's not going to put his shoulder down and run somebody over like A.J. Brown will not even hesitate to, or again, he'll give you the nasty stiff arm. If there was, you got A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry at the wide receiver and running back positions for Tennessee, that might have been the best running back wide receiver stiff arming duo in the NFL while they were together. But essentially, I say all that to say this, is that Jalen Hurts, the one sucky part about having him is that you're not necessarily going to have a stack. So at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. I just clanged to my arm on the table there, so hopefully you guys didn't get a bunch of feedback from that, but you probably did. So we're winding down here. We got the 13th through 18th round left to draft today. Overall, the way that this receiver room kind of filled out is exactly what it's supposed to be. It's high upside, but I would almost, in best ball, the receiver position I feel like just gives you, unless you're talking like the most elite of elite players, which is what Christian McCaffrey is. I think that this team implodes upon itself if he's not available. Now, I have Javonte and Breece Hall to bail me out if that's the case, but what we're going to need is Javonte to hit on a higher ceiling that I'm, putting on him for expectations. Absolutely can finish as a RB1 this year. I hope that's the case, obviously, because I've drafted a couple shares of him in best ball, but essentially the point I'm getting to here is that either him or Breece would have to take a major RB1 level jump for me to win this league if CMC is not available. And at this point, I don't know, and we're going to have to hit on the wide receiver positions as well. Love Mike Evans. I think Skye Moore and Christian Watson give me phenomenal upside. DJ Moore potentially could be that guy. I mean, I'll be right about him in terms of drafting him in today's video, but at the same time, my analysis and gut tells me that there are significant risks with him in that Carolina offense. So by all means, I hope that I'm wrong, but I'm a little bit cautiously optimistic with that pick there. What could I do up here? Okay, we're on the clock, so we're going to have to make a decision here rather quickly. Again, there's not too many stacks that I'd feel comfortable with. Jacoby Myers is someone just to have as a floor play, but it's limited in terms of what he could be. George Pickens, I think, has a lot of upside. Alec Pierce does as well. That might actually be where I go. I'm going to draft Alec Pierce here. The reasoning for doing that instead of Jacoby Myers is A, we have enough of a sample size to see that Jacoby Myers scoring touchdowns is just not what he does. I've already drafted more shares of Jacoby Myers than I would like to in leagues this year. Again, he's a floor play. He's not someone you're expecting to give you a massive ceiling, and yeah, we do have a heinous share of rookie wide receivers on this roster, but I think Pierce can do a lot of damage in that Falcons offense in year one, just between having a stable quarterback spot in Matt Ryan. I think he can deliver big time on his upside. I think he's a very good vertical route runner, and I think he has a lot of utility that might be tapped into as a big slot in that passing game there as well. But he could also thrive opposite of Michael Pittman. So it's at least worth exploring and entertaining for me at that pick there. Let's see. What QBs, if I were... So I could stack with Matt Ryan. Now, Matt Ryan's a statue. He's going to give you nothing in terms of the running department. I literally might just wait here and draft Jared Goff. We drafted Mac Jones the other day. Essentially, my take on that is that he is, to me, Kirk Cousins 2 for fantasy football. Until he takes like a step forward to being an elite, Tom Brady-esque thinker of just being the top of the game for a pocket passing QB, I think his ceiling is Kirk Cousins. He's not someone that's going to give you top 5 or 6 numbers like Tom Brady is doing, throwing NFL leading passing attempts this past season. he's not going to give you more than Kirk Cousins level numbers. And I think that Jared Goff can just thrive on eating off of run after catch between DeAndre Swift, Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, TJ Hawkinson's talented as well. He's got a really nice structure of players around him that as long as, I should probably check on this. Yeah, different bye week, so we'd be just fine there. Unfortunately, I love David Njoku, but I can't draft him as my tight end too because Pat Freiermuth already has that as his bye week. What other players could I dabble in here? KJ Osborne's not someone I would mind drafting. Definitely see some potential in him to make some big plays for Minnesota this year. George Pickens could still be there. Might draft my first share of him, or give me some Josh Palmer, baby. That actually might be the pick to go with here. With his upside obviously being the field stretcher in a Herbert offense. Him and Mike Williams have phenomenal ceilings with that football team. If you guys are enjoying today's video, make sure to drop down, leave a like, click that subscribe button. If you are new around here, we'll be doing draft videos like this multiple times per week and sending lots of content your direction. So stay tuned for that. Turn the bell on. Again, go check out, I believe I talked about this at the top of today's video, but if you want some free exclusive content, drop down to the description of today's episode. Sign up for SFS Weekly. It's my Substack account. And again, one weekly drop in your email inbox per week, or you can go check it out on Substack's website. But I'll be doing my 10 secrets to 2022 fantasy football, how to dominate your leagues. And one of my secrets may be to not draft at the 1.5 overall pick, because I'm not loving how things are turning out today. I'm okay with it. I think that, there may be some things in hindsight that I wish I would have done a little bit differently. But I think overall today's video has turned out fairly decent in terms of the experience and just figuring out exactly what's going on with today's draft. But again, we're here to learn. It's June. We're gonna get continuously better. I'm sure I'll be drafting from the 1.5 spot again sometime this offseason, and we'll take another swing at things here. See if we can make our second go around from this draft position even better. So stay tuned for that. What I've loved so far this season is actually going a bit wide receiver heavier in the early rounds than we have in previous years. The running back position has traditionally been super thin, crazy thin when we talk about the top 3 rounds having quality producers and then it just being shots in the dark at that point. This year, I see legitimate upside when you take a look at, let's go to the 5th round here. With guys, you're getting Elijah Moore, or Mitchell, in the 7th round. A.J. Dillon, Kenneth Walker, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, all in the 7th round here. All guys who, I think have top 24 potential. Not a guarantee they'll hit on that, but you're talking about, Antonio Gibson going in the 5th with a guy like Breece Hall. I like Breece Hall way more than I like Antonio Gibson. Travis Etienne, his ADP pushing up there a little bit, but in the late 4th round, sign me up for Etienne. Javonte Williams, James Conner in the 3rd, David Montgomery and Cam Akers have some ceilings as well. There's a lot more spread out opportunities to draft the running back position is essentially the takeaway in the 2022 season as opposed to 2020 or 2021. I'm liking a lot what I see there. So we do still, all right, so we've got 4 picks left here in today's 18-round draft. Again, like today's video if you're enjoying. Subscribe to the SFS channel. We appreciate the heck out of all you guys staying tuned for today's video. I do need or would like to have another quarterback and another tight end, obviously for bye week purposes. You don't want to just take the L that week because you don't have someone available to start. It's inevitable. It's going to happen in some leagues. I mean, I could draft Jared Goff down here, and he's got a week 6 bye, and Jalen Hurts is a week 7 bye. Maybe Jalen rolls his ankle in week 6 and gets me 2 points, and we're out of spot there. But at the end of the day, that's how things go. But I do really like that potential there. And actually, is Senor Goff gone? No, he's not. He's still there. Kenneth Gainwell wouldn't be a terrible RB5 for this team, a guy that can catch passes. Again, another unique bye week as a niche player for that team. Would be investing back into that Eagles backfield, which I think is something very interesting to do. Marvin Jones is also another guy who could still have a legitimate role on this Jaguars football team, despite the fact that he's getting a little up there in age, and you just brought in Christian Kirk, I think he could still be very productive for this offense. Obviously not at an elite level, but in terms of drafting him this late. So the question becomes, would I rather have? Which one would I rather take? This time, I'm going to just go Kenneth Gainwell. And the running back position is essentially finished for today's episode. But I'm able to, take 2 shots there on the Eagles in that run game, which I'm very bullish on. They led the National Football League in rushing attempts last season. So very encouraging stuff there. And I think I have 1 share of Marvin Jones so far between the 5 or 6 drafts I've done this offseason. Peek into some of the other names on the table today. I do really like Marvin, though. I would have been happy with either of those if someone were to have snatched someone from underneath me. I kind of want to just peek at the wide receiver position to see kind of the names that we've got left here. Lots of interesting opportunities here. We'll see how many more, shots we take at that position. Again, we do still need to address tight end 2, which wouldn't mind it being Hayden Hurst if he's got a unique bye week, which he does. I think Joe Burrow and that offense would be fantastic to have invested into there. And then at quarterback, let's see how soon. Pick 195. So we've got some time to. I just drafted Ryan Tannehill in the last video. Jared Goff is actually coming up here, so we'll see. Hooper is another interesting tight end because I think the Tennessee loves to use their tight ends, and Hooper's a guy who's had very productive fantasy seasons in the past. Cam Brate could be kind of a sleeper if Gronk doesn't come back, but I also am a humongous Cade Otton fan, but that's dynasty, that's more long-term. But Cam Brate has had productive fantasy years as well with Jameis Winston, pre-Tom Brady, pre-Gronk in that Tampa Bay Buccaneers system. But it'll come back to, if Gronk just decides that he's done partying for this year and wants to come play football again. I think he will at the end of the day. But I still haven't drafted a share of him just because I'm, being kind of a skeptic and a little bit more cautious with that realism or, that situation that we're currently presented with here. We are 4 picks away. Currently, it's looking like Hayden Hurst would be my preferred pick for this selection. I don't think anyone's going to reach up and steal Jared Goff from me, but if they were to, I'd feel a lot more comfortable just taking a shot at another one of those starting level quarterbacks. There's a few of them on the board that I'd be comfortable with, as opposed to tight end, really just Austin Hooper or Brevin Jordan. Evan Ingram is someone that it's just really hard for me to trust time and time again. Logan Thomas coming off an ACL, and that's exactly what we'll do here. We're going to go with Hayden Hurst. I think that it's an upgrade in terms of Joe Burrow. CJ Uzomah was a nice player. He's actually formerly the number 1 wide receiver in his draft class, which is insane because now he's a tight end, and I can't see him as a receiver because he's just not athletic enough. But coming out of high school, he was the number 1 or at least a top wide receiver prospect because I was watching a documentary one day and he popped up in it, and I was like, whoa, this guy is a NFL tight end now. But I think that Hayden Hurst, a former first-round pick, obviously that's not like the most important thing, but he was someone that at one time the Ravens, who are a very good front office, invested into with a high first-round draft pick, and eventually Mark Andrews just beat him out for the job. And now I think Joe Burrow's got a fantastic situation where he's shown a fondness for checking the ball down or at least throwing the ball in the middle of the field. And in big spots last year, mind you, Joe Burrow would throw the football to CJ Uzomah, his tight end. So Hayden Hurst will get valuable targets. It's not like he's going to be a target magnet in that offense, but I think he has a lot to contribute in a legitimate level of upside that he brings to the table for that offense. Now, Jared Goff, again, here is someone that I've been kind of thinking about. I would have freaking loved to have Jamison Williams paired with him, but he went 2 picks before our 10th round selection. I was able to get him in my first 2 best ball drafts, and then after that, it's been kind of tough sledding. I've been targeting him basically every video, but things just haven't worked out right for me. Devin Duvernay is someone who I might pick up here in the final round. I don't know if he'll still be available, but we have got a deep, deep room at the wide receiver position. We'll just hope that some of that upside hits. I'm liking today's video more the later we got into things. I was a bit nervous about how the later ons would play out. We've missed on a couple guys that we were looking for, and I could still miss on both Jared Goff and Devin Duvernay, but those would be two names that I would like to take a shot at here. Duvernay will be the number 2 in the offense for the Ravens this season, and obviously I talked about this again in that breakouts video, but I think Lamar Jackson took a step forward as a passer last year. He's not Josh Allen. He's not Patrick Mahomes. But he is no longer never that he was a liability, but he is much more proficient at that. Let's just put it that way. Could take a Marlon Mack here, who would be an interesting pick, but again, we've got other things to address. I feel really good about my top 5 RBs. I'm not going to waste any time with that. We've got Julio on the board, who I'm satisfied with my one draft choice. I took him last year. I will not be drafting him again until he either signs with the team or, who knows. I mean, at this point, you're probably looking at like 10 games played a year for Julio Jones, and a guy who is not going to be super healthy in the other games he plays. And we saw last year, I mean, he went to a run-first offense, or at least a heavier rushing offense, but it just didn't work out great for him. He's up there in age. The physicality has taken a toll on him. He's an all-time great player, but at the end of the day, what is he still providing to your lineup is a valid question to ask. 11 picks away from the final selection in today's draft. Again, we're looking for Devin Duvernay. Drop down, click that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Sign up for the Substack. You'll get one weekly piece of content, updates on everything we did for this week. It'll be fantastic. I can't wait to get that rolling out to you guys again. Not going to spam you. Not going to, just put a ton of random, unimportant crap in there. So go check out that Substack account. Also, if you want to draft with me this season, you got to join Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code SFS when you sign up. Deposit. Underdog will double your money, and you'll get the draft guides on sizzlefantasy.com completely free. And again, I'll be reaching out to you at the end of the week that you signed up and letting you know and getting you access to all that content. Or if you want, get a hold of me in my DMs on Instagram or Twitter, and I can fast track that process for you if you can prove that you use that code for me. But all that stuff is in the description of today's episode, so go check all that out. I can't wait to get more stuff rolling out to you guys this week. Hopefully, you'll check out that breakout players video as well. That should be dropping here prior to this video coming out, so it should already be available once you're able to or are looking to watch that. So one final pick. Every position has been addressed to my satisfaction today. We do have quite a bit of weeks. Was it seven buys? Yeah, that's fine. They're all at different positions. I actually don't know if we have any duplicate bye weeks. Looks like week 8, we've got Skye Moore and Josh Palmer gone. And that's literally it. We've got all unique players at the running back spot. So we kind of killed it in that area, which is nice to see. You never know. This could result in being a championship team. Again, it's not something where I'm like ready to, just go crazy because I feel like we crushed it today, but I do feel we have a decent amount of upside, especially for being a best ball draft. One thing I try to stay away from here is I don't really care too much about this projection number. This is actually a bit lower than some of my other videos, but projections don't always come true. And if, any of these players down here like Christian Watson, Skye Moore crush on their ADP and put up a ton of fantasy points, that's not what their projection is telling you they're going to do by them going in the 8th and the 10th round or 8th and the 9th round. So I think today went pretty well. Again, don't love it quite as much as I love my last 2 drafts that I did, but I do feel confident in a lot of these players' ability to produce upside. I do want to run through and just make sure, this is the last pick. Who cares how far down the board you reach here? Just get your guy. There's not like there's waiver wire ads or anything, so you're basically locked into the players you draft in this, and then it's over. So I do think Duvernay is my guy. I'm interested to see kind of who are some of these last picks going off the board. I always like to just pay attention to what guys are picking, and it looks like Devin Duvernay is lined up perfectly for us. I know there's a community of Paris Campbell and Laviska Shenault guys. I'll take my shot this time on Duvernay. Isaiah McKenzie's another interesting one to keep your eye out for. If I had Josh Allen, which someone pointed out in the comment section a couple of videos ago, very actually, intuitive and good analysis actually, that I had Josh Allen, so I might as well have just, that was the draft, I drafted Julio Jones. They were like, you might as well have just paired Isaiah McKenzie's upside as the F receiver. They have packages for him. He's explosive. They can use him downfield. I should have just gotten the stack there, but didn't end up going ahead and doing that. So I will definitely keep that in mind for future videos. I was looking for that with Hurts today, Jared Goff, but didn't quite work out for us. So this draft is about ready to be done here. I will do a quick little overview, a wrap-up, a synopsis of what happened in today's video, and we will get you guys sent on your way here on this Monday afternoon or whenever you're watching today's episode, no matter what day it is. We appreciate the heck out of you for sticking with us and jumping into today's video. So here is the last pick. I'll just start recapping today. Our quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts and Jared Goff. Feel really good about Jalen Hurts' upside. I'm drafting a lot of him this season. Jared Goff, I just think, as a one-week sub, can be a fantastic backup option for a super cheap price. CMC, Javonte Williams, Breece Hall, A.J. Dillon, Kenneth Gainwell. Feel really dang good about that running back core and the types of things that they're going to be able to produce for this team. I think at the floor, we got some really good stability between CMC and Javonte. If CMC is healthy, obviously, and some upside with A.J. Dillon, Breece Hall, and Kenneth Gainwell as a competent passer. Mike Evans, DJ Moore, Skye Moore, Christian Watson, Michael Gallup, Jamison Crowder, Alec Pierce, Josh Palmer, Devin Duvernay. What does that group scream? Upside. Not a ton of floor value there. Probably our one guy that has a safe floor is Mike Evans, and that's because we know what Mike Evans is, and he's got like 7 or 8 straight 1,000-yard years. But outside of that, we're just hoping guys crush on that ADP and exceed expectations. Pat Fryermuth and Hayden Hurst, a modest but dependable tight end group, if you ask me. And I just like what those two guys bring to the table. So thank you guys so much one more time for watching today's video, for sticking with me. I appreciate the heck out of you. Go check out all that great stuff in the description of today's video. There's a ton of content and opportunities down there for you guys to get a bunch of stuff for free and get access to more SFS content. So thank you guys. I will see you next time. Peace out.